Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. The split is official. Longtime Packers cornerback Jaire Alexander officially a Raven. His former college quarterback Lamar Jackson was excited to get the news because his squad could certainly have used him early in the 2024 season. The Ravens ranking near the bottom in most passing defensive categories for much of the season. And you like to think when healthy, that man can take the top off the secondary. But it begs the question, where do they stack up among the rest of the league? More on that in a minute. But before we do so, take a look at the other additions joining Jaire Alexander out in Baltimore. A couple of other fellow secondary members. Chidobe Awuzie coming over from the Titans, and they also drafted Malachi Starks out of Georgia. DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of the offense looking to make a big difference, and all of these names hoping to take the Ravens back to the promised land of the Super Bowl. We've got our two-time Super Bowl champion, Bryant McFadden, tapping in. And B-Mac, you know, the Jaire Alexander move kind of got us thinking, where do the secondaries rank as we go into the 2025 season? That's why we've got you here to discuss. And we're starting at number 5. That's where you give the nod to your Pittsburgh Steelers. So we start strong here with Pittsburgh at 5, B-Mac.
Yes, I have Pittsburgh, the Steelers, in my top 5 secondaries for this upcoming year because when you look at the combination of experience, of playmaking ability, not to mention a youthful movement as well, they have those said things, starting with Joey Porter Jr. He's considered one of the best man-to-man corners, especially press man corners in the game. He's really excelled from where he was his rookie year to currently where he sits in his skill set. So I like that addition. Not to mention having Darius Slay come into the fold. Big Play Slay is his nickname. You don't just get that nickname. You have to earn it. He's earned every bit of that nickname throughout his professional career. He was a part of a great defensive effort for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's into the fold. Micah Fitzpatrick, we know what type of playmaker he is. And the unheralded hero, in my opinion, Deshaun Elliott. What he did last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the secondary oftentimes get overlooked in terms of the physical nature, being a sure, willing participant in the running game, and not to mention a punisher. He's more of the bouncer of the crew. He's throwing people out of the club because of his style of play. So I love the combination of great skill set, not to mention attitude as well, and that's why I have the Pittsburgh Steelers as my 5th ranked secondary for this upcoming season.
It's going to take some time to get used to hearing Big Play Slay in Pittsburgh. That's going to be new for us this year, but it is where the cards have dealt him. If we go over to the AFC West, B-Mac, I can't wait to get your reaction on this. Leger Douzable told us yesterday when we were breaking down the Broncos that he believes Denver is going to win that division. They're going to overtake the Chiefs and be division champions. I'd like to think if they're going to do so, they're going to do it on the backs of their defense. They spent a lot of time investing, and you've got them here at number 4. I'm going to guess because they have Patrick Surtain, the second in that secondary.
Well, that's where I will start the conversation for the Broncos. Of course, being in my top 5, number 4, as you stated, Pat Surtain Jr. was outstanding. He's been outstanding his entire professional career. But you look at the development and growth. He hasn't been stagnant in his production. He has improved, and that says a lot in terms of who he is as a cornerback. Of course, he is the lead catalyst for their success. I love bringing in Hufanga from the San Francisco 49ers. People forget, when he was healthy, he was an all-pro safety, a difference maker. Now he's back to having a 100% clean bill of health. I like his skill set. Riley Moss, he's oftentimes targeted a lot because of the opposite corner in Pat Surtain, but he lives up to the billing. He lives up to the test. And he's a very feisty corner as well. We can't forget about Jahdae Barron, first-round selection from the University of Texas. Many believe he was the best corner available in the draft. When you look at what he does in terms of versatility, that's a big-time plus because he can play inside or outside. I potentially see him playing more of that nickel corner for the Denver Broncos when you look at having Moss and Surtain as the outside guys. But collectively speaking, they got some dudes that can play man-to-man coverage, that can take the football away, and most importantly, they can tackle.
Surtain coming in at number 9 on Pete Prisco's top 100 NFL players list released earlier this week. So everyone giving him those flowers. We'll see if it can translate there as they are number 4 on your list. If we go to number 3, B-Mac, we also go west to east. It seems like all the chatter in New England, rightfully so, has been about building that solid offensive line in front of Drake May. And it's kind of allowed the defense to slip under the cracks a little bit there. And now you've got a secondary, B-Mac, that added Carlton Davis and Marcus Epps to go along with one of the more underrated corners in the league and Christian Gonzalez, and it's shaping up pretty nicely here at number 3.
No question. I love the mentality that we're seeing being created there in New England under head coach Mike Vrabel. When you're chasing the Buffalo Bills, you better have guys that can cover when you're facing off against Josh Allen. And that's what they did. You talked about Christian Gonzalez. I believe Christian Gonzalez is a top 3 cornerback in the National Football League, followed behind Pat Surtain, Derek Stingley. I love his game. You talked about kind of being overlooked. He does so in a quiet way. His production, he's like the silent assassin. You don't hear him, but you see him and you feel him. And then you add in Carlton Davis, a big-time playmaker, a Super Bowl winning player as well. Every place he's been a difference maker, improving the secondary. Most importantly, the defense. I believe he will have the same outcome with the New England Patriots. Can't forget about Kyle Duggar again. He's another unheralded player for their defense. Doesn't do a lot of talking, but his presence is felt as well. So I love the makeup of their secondary, starting with Christian Gonzalez. You look at Kyle Duggar, bringing in Carlton Davis. That's a big-time plus. And you better believe they understand what they need to do to be relevant in their division. Go get guys that can cover, because when you're playing against Josh Allen, the more the merrier.
Yeah, isn't it crazy how our perspective of the AFC East has shifted now with what New England has done? The Jets look a little different. That division is going to be spicy. Gonzalez, by the way, BMAC, with the 3rd lowest completion percentage allowed as the nearest defender last year, came in at 53%. Derek Stingley Jr. was the guy that actually led that statistic at 47%. And we talked about, you know, why Patrick Surtain was so important to Denver. He's pretty important to what they're doing out in Houston. Houston ranked as in the top in passing defense. They were 1st in completion percentage, 2nd in interceptions, BMAC, and they come in at number 2 on your list.
No question. Starting with Derek Stingley Jr., right? If the Houston Texans secondary was the Jackson 5, it's safe to say Derek Stingley Jr. is Michael.
Love it.
He is Michael. They only go as he goes. You talked about what he's done. Outstanding play. He's looking like the player that we saw down in Baton Rouge when you look at playing for the LSU Tigers. Got paid deservedly so. Big-time playmaker. But then you look at the depth, right? It's not just about the quality, the quantity. When you look at Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kalen Bullock, and Jalen Petrie, right? All 5 of those guys, in terms of interceptions in the regular and postseason, they combined for a total, Haley, 23 interceptions. All 5 of those guys had in 2024. Outstanding playmaking ability. They take Wilson away from opposing teams. And it starts with their lead singer in Derek Stingley Jr. I mean, in any other situation, they probably would be number 1. But because of who number 1 is, I had to put the Jackson 5 at 2. But just wait till you see who my number 1 is. You might understand why Derek Stingley and company landed at the number 2 spot for my top 5 secondaries.
I don't know, BMAC, putting MJ at number 2 is going to rub people the wrong way, maybe watching this. But to your point, I understand you, because I want to remind folks at home, we started this whole segment talking about Jair Alexander and his big move to Baltimore. And so they come in at number 1 here, the Ravens. And it's interesting, BMAC, when you think about what we were saying about the Ravens' pass defense about midway through the season last year, it was abysmal. They ranked at the bottom of the list in multiple categories. And yet here they are. They get one big move there with Jair Alexander and a handful of others as well to support it. And they come in at number 1 on your top list of secondaries, BMAC.
Yes. Okay, so let me break this down for you guys, all right? When you talk about Baltimore being number 1 in my top 5 secondaries, it's all about production, experience, and consistency. All right, so let's start with production. Their top 3 guys, right, in Marlon Humphrey, Jair Alexander, Kyle Hamilton. All 3 guys have made multiple All-Pro teams. Not just one, multiple All-Pro teams. In terms of being consistent, when they've been healthy, they've all been one of the more consistent defensive backs in the National Football League. And get this, they're not even 29. When you look at the oldest member, it's 28. Marlon Humphrey and Jair Alexander, if I'm not mistaken, they're the 2 oldest members in this secondary group, and they're only 28 years old. And then when you factor in what Wiggins did as a rookie a year ago, gradually getting better week in and week out, the athleticism, the skill set, and the confidence, he's set up to have a great second year. And then we look at the first round selection, who's playing alongside Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. He was the best ball hawking safety that was in the draft, and the Baltimore Ravens saw his skill set and they drafted him in the first round. So when you look at Wiggins, Malachi Starks, Kyle Hamilton, Jair Alexander, Marlon Humphrey, they earned the right to be number one. And I can tell you this much, Haley, before I let you go, or before you let me go, whatever fits the criteria, it doesn't matter. They made this move in terms of improving their secondary because they were already a really good unit. This was about Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Because if you look at what Jamar Chase did against the Baltimore Ravens in 2 ball games, receiving passes from Joe Burrow, they had no answer. So they understand what they need to do in their division, and they wouldn't improve in that area. And this should be a very, very entertaining year for the Baltimore Ravens, even though it pains me to say that being a former Steeler, but I got to keep it real. And they're in the words of the young kids nowadays, no cap coming from me, no cap.
No cap. By the way, Ravens-Bengals first meeting November 27th, Sunday Night Football, and then the second one coming December 14th at 1 o'clock. We'll keep our eyes on all those secondaries. B-Mac, we certainly appreciate the time, keeping it real with us when it comes to those secondaries. Taking a look here at the top corners. According to our Pete Frisco, we talked about Pat Surtain II, the Defensive Player of the Year last year for a reason. Slightly ranked above Derek Stingley Jr. We didn't talk about Sauce Gardner, but he's always a name to watch out there for the New York Jets. You can find Pete's entire list right now on CBSSports.com.